you're reading the story,
Yeah.
and then you're finding the clue pieces.
Exactly.
And then you're bringing it all out in this really beautiful session, whether it's in a fun way, a playful way, an artistic way, a talking way. Like, there's so many different routes that you can take this down.
Megan Robinson, founder of Anam Cara Wellbeing, is a therapist who works at the intersection of psychology, neuroscience and soul. She supports those who've grown up too fast, carried too much, or felt unseen in systems that never truly empowered them. Gently, she guides people back into deep relationship with themselves through honest reflection, somatic wisdom, and emotionally regulated connection. Welcome back to Raw, and welcome, Megan. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much for inviting me today. I've been so excited.
Me too. So today I want to explore some of the work that you do with cared for children.
Yeah.
Care for teenagers and the parents or foster families that support them.
Okay. So yeah, I do work with cared for young people. That's that's probably the main bulk of my work at the minute. And the role that I would play is I'm a therapeutic support worker. So these young people would live in their own individual flats or apartments, and then we would be staff downstairs ready and available to help them with whatever it is that they might need. Obviously, these children come from lots of different backstories, whether they're coming from children's homes or whether they're coming from foster families that have broken down, or some of them have just become homeless and we're like the next stepping stone then for them to learn how to live independently. I think what kind of makes my role a wee bit different is that I do work with them in the therapeutic sense. So it's not just about ringing the GP and trying to get them a doctor. It's actually sitting and having key working sessions to help them to process just their own emotional landscape and maybe to try and understand their stories a wee bit and how they can then maybe transform from those old stories into something that is really meaningful and something that they can actually aspire to become. So it's a fun day at work.
Amazing work. It's amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And really powerful and important in the landscape of people who really, really struggle to find that emotional connection to words, to feelings.
Yeah.
So you do somatics.
Yes.
So I also do somatics, but I want to just explore a little bit how somatics play an important role in helping young people specifically, but also older people, into finding how feelings feel internally.
Yeah. So I think it's quite interesting that I do work this way because I was definitely a child that didn't have a clue. I don't think that even now as an adult, I can really understand what feeling I'm having straight away. It takes me a while to actually identify what feeling I'm having, what emotion is kind of running through me. Sometimes it feels that big of a wave that I need to ride it for a bit before I can actually put a name to it. So I think whenever I work with young people who have those kind of emotional waves in a similar way to what I do, they just don't have the tools or the understanding in how they can express those emotions without it being volatile or without it being in a way that's disempowering. I think one of the big things to direct towards children is an understanding about anger or any of those heavy emotions not always being a bad thing, and those emotions can be something that can really empower us to create change in our lives.
Absolutely.
And to create changes in the systems that you're in. And you know this work, Jane, it's not easy working in those systems, and you are very limited to what you can actually do with the young people. But I think the beauty about what we do is that it crosses that red tape between it being absolutely woo-woo bonkers madness to actually being really structured, really safe and really centered practices that are probably some of the most natural things that are timeless and age old. It's not going to your GP. It's not about taking pharmaceuticals. And I know that they have their place. But I think with the work that we do, we cut out the middleman. We're the person that they're probably hoping will meet them in the line to the GP or to the nurse or the mental health practitioner. Yeah. And as much as all of those people are incredible and do amazing work, I think where we're at is kind of creating a new pathway for understanding selves, understanding how the human condition works, because it's fucking complicated. Do you know what I mean? And just trying to educate people, whether they're young or old, but it really is about emotional intelligence and emotional regulation. And I think that when you put those things at the forefront of education and of therapy, it's crime prevention. It's a real prevention method towards anything, to people feeling lonely and isolated or powerless or like they've no purpose. That understanding of self and emotional awareness is really the key and the pathway to getting us wherever we're looking to go.
Absolutely. So let's talk about emotional regulation. So how would you start regulating somebody who has anger, which is often connected to emotions that sit underneath that, of hurt, of shame, of humiliation, of embarrassment? How would you go around about connecting that? Because grounding obviously is very important.
Yeah, and I think, in terms of the work that I'm doing, obviously, if I'm working with a young person and they are sitting rattling with their anger inside them, it's giving them an outlet, first of all, right? Do you need to go and have a scream? Do you need to go and shout this out in a safe environment? And give them permission, first of all, to feel that emotion and stay present with them, to know that this isn't going to kill you. It's not going to feel good for a couple of minutes or however long that it's going to take to process. Yeah. But the way out is through. And it's about really cultivating a safe space where children, young people, adults can say, I'm really angry. It's not fair. I don't understand. I don't know. I don't have the language. I don't have the words. I just have movement in my body. I just have all of this energy and I don't know where to put it. So it's creating that safe container first. And then if they've let out all their big feels and they're a bit more regulated, and you can feel like maybe they're just having a cry now, or they're breathing deeply and they're just trying to regulate, then I would start going into different practices. Like EFT is one of my favourite ones, and it's one that I use for myself every single day, just to bring me back into myself, let alone to process big rattly feelings that you might have inside.
So for those that are listening that don't know what EFT is, it stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, and it's actually tapping on the different acupressure points of the system. So it works similarly to acupuncture, but thankfully there's no needles.
Yeah.
So we tap on the different acupressure points of the system, and that releases heavy emotional load, and it feels really good.
Yeah, I really, really love EFT. And like, I could wake up in the morning and not know my backside from my elbow. It might have been too far gone in my sleep. And EFT just brings me round. Sometimes EFT is a really powerful tool, not for necessarily transforming or processing emotions very quickly, but it's for people that are feeling intensity at a high level and that need a little bit more grounding before they can actually get to the learnings or the understanding of what it is that they're actually experiencing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So children that can't feel, how do they somatically take that information in? Is it through their senses? Is it through their brain? How do you think that the children that can't process feeling or don't understand feeling, is it because they have neurodivergent brains usually? Is there a whole host of reasons?
There's a
why?
whole host of reasons.
Yeah.
I think, neurodiversity is such a big thing at the minute.
Yeah,
and I do work with a lot of young people who are neurodiverse, and every other day at work they're coughing tism at me as if I am also neurodiverse. And we have really interesting conversations, because for some of the children or young people that I work with, some of them are neurodiverse, others are not. But they all present very similarly. And this is where we start to have really open and honest conversations about being born neurodiverse and actually having trauma that is presenting as neurodiversity. And just really like live and let live. We're all experiencing these different things in very different ways. I totally get that. But the core of how we are getting back to that centre, whether we are neurodiverse or whether we're not, is the practices and the way that we nurture ourselves and the education that we have about what actually works for you, because not one size fits all.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
I
would use techniques with non-neurodiverse people that I would never use with people who are neurodiverse. I mean, I work with a lot of people who are non-verbal, in the sense that when it comes to emotions, they're shut down. They don't know how to unravel
frozen.
their stories. They're just stuck. And then there's people that can't stop talking. It's like they've got verbal diarrhea, and it just keeps going and keeps going. And I think within those two different kinds of people. There's lots of different practices that you can use to separate that. So for people who are not neurodiverse, I find that they would maybe get lost in their stories a lot easier, whereas neurodiverse people would get lost in the overwhelm and the sensations in their body or in their mind. So that's how it kind of looks differently. And then you would just choose what way we're going to go and what map we're going to use to get there.
What balances that out for those particular people.
Definitely.
And what about the parents? So how do they play a role in how that then affects everything as it cascades down through generational paths?
So sometimes in my work, parents have nothing to do with their children. It might be caregivers, it might be other members of staff from other cottages. So it's more or less a matter of us as staff being able to step in and stand in the awareness that we're not here to be your parents. We're not here to replace or tick up any space that we cannot, but we're also here to be responsible, safe people that are around you. And, you know, I think mainly in the role that we are doing, we're giving these young people an opportunity to have someone feel proud of them and encourage them and believe in them and spot things that maybe their first initial stories and upbringings didn't really offer them. I mean, I think one of the best things about my work is that whenever some of our young people do well is that they get to see us in our emotion, like being human and going like, go on, get on, you're sorted. Absolutely. Congratulations. Well done. And those moments are what make a really challenging system really rewarding. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it all comes back down to psychology at the end of the day and the hierarchy of needs that we need to thrive in a situation that is really a very often helpless situations that they don't often have any hope or find any hope within.
I couldn't imagine. And obviously I grew up in a house where my mum was a foster parent, my nanny and granddad were foster parents, so I was used to children that I now work with coming in and out of the house, and my nanny and granddad being the first people to ever say, if you can give someone a second chance, then maybe that's enough. You don't need to save them. You don't need to rescue them. And I find that people that especially grow up in those kind of scenarios, they naturally then become rescuers. They naturally become these people that have tried to keep peace, that have tried to create harmony, that have tried to make sure everyone's okay at home. And depending on what level of intensity or need that their own caregivers would have had, it would actually bring out a fair play of resilience in our young people. That is great to a certain extent because they've learned a coping mechanism. They've been able to make this work until such a point where they grow up and they're like, oh my God, I grew up way too fast. What do I do now? Like, I've spent all this time having to look after Tom, Dick and Harry, and now me. Who
am I?
Like, what do I do? Who am I outside of this role? I don't know how to discover that. And I suppose that's where we all step in. So whether you're working with teenagers or children and working with their caregivers or staff or even their parents, it looks different for every story. And I think it's really about the holistic perspective that you take, everybody having a role and a space where they can thrive in their skills of excellence, because obviously I work with a very diverse team and they're not all therapists and they're not all psychologists and they're not scientists, but they work. Do you know, there has to be a way where we can all find that connection.
There's a connection between each and every one of you, and the connection between the children feeling safe in that space. And I think it's all to do with, here you are, kids that maybe not have had some of their basic needs being met. If they found themselves homeless, they've got nowhere to stay or nowhere to live. They feel abandoned and lost and unsafe.
And they don't have those words.
They don't have the words to explain how they feel.
They don't have the language. Do you know what I mean? And I think that, especially where I come from, Derry's so full of slang, and we're all like, a term of endearment is literally slagging you off to the back teeth, and that talk really becomes normal. And as much in some respect I really appreciate it and it's quite familiar, I can also see that is quite challenging for for people who are maybe not getting their needs met at the very first, and who do not have the language to say, actually, that doesn't make me feel so good inside, so can we maybe find a way around that? Or can we even talk about why this doesn't make me feel good, or why I can't take a compliment? Because that's a big thing as well. We'll be like, oh, that's nice, this old thing. Oh, and we just reflect everything back. So as a culture, you know, it can be quite hard then to kind of go against those narratives that maybe they've been taught.
It's all stuck in the belief systems of where they've started, where they've grown up, generational systems, all of that. And all of it connects back, doesn't it?
It really does. And I think that everything's hereditary, whether it's passed down biologically or it's passed down socially. And I think that, again, coming back to the education perspective, whenever you work with children or young people and they come to you and you're not their primary caregiver, you have to work with what they've got. And a lot of the times it's about figuring out what they've got, because if they're not talking about it and they're not willing to open up at that first, it's all about building that connection and that rapport. Yeah.
Making them feel safe.
Well, that's it. And don't get me wrong, not all young people at their work are coming to me and offloading all of their stuff, but they all know in our work who they go to whenever things are happening or whenever things are going wrong. So that makes me feel quite good. Obviously, the therapeutic work is really where my heart's at, and being able to see these transformations that they're making. But again, it's the collective that's around them that they need, because we don't just need one therapist for the rest of our lives and then that's all well and good.
What's the old-fashioned saying? You need a village to raise a child.
I need 3 personally, and so it's massive, and it's about creating all of those different pathways for them. And not all of them are perfect. Like, you know, there's plenty of things that we come up and get challenged with, but
is there such thing as perfect?
No, definitely not.
There isn't. There's really no size fits all, or no one size fits all. So what's perfect for one is definitely not perfect for somebody else.
And I think that's why it's important that as therapists that we're multidisciplined. Like, we need to have more than one tool to go in and work with these people, whether they're young or old. You know, different things will work differently for each individual.
Exactly.
And then it becomes a unique experience then for them, and they can come at trauma or heavy emotions or grief or heartbreak or any of those things, and they can come at it on their own terms rather than us dictating to them, right, you need to do it this way, we need you to tell us your whole life story and regurgitate all that trauma, come on, tell me. You're like, oh my God.
Let's just bring all the trauma back to the surface, and then what?
And then give you nothing to actually bring you back down again and to help you process. I think it's nuts. I really, really do. So yeah, it's about finding different ways. And I think that that's what I love about my work. There's so many different facets to it, and there's so many different pathways I can go down. So for me as an individual, I love to work people out. I love to help them process things. But I really love different techniques and different modalities, different teachings from all over the world. I don't believe that we've got it all sorted over here in our wee corner. We could be listening out to other parts of the world to get some real information and wisdom. And equally, it really is just about bringing this whole essence of, there's so many different pathways. There's lots that you can experiment with. There's lots that you can choose from.
Absolutely.
And if one doesn't work, it doesn't mean that you can't be helped or that you can't be healed. It's just a stepping stone to get you to this next chapter now of whatever transformation you're looking for.
I 100% agree. I think that we cannot just use just one or two tools to manage the complexities of human experience. It's too complex, it's too difficult, and as you say, we have to go deeper into the understanding of how that sits in the body, how that feels in their systems, how they carry almost like rucksacks of bricks on their shoulders. But then if you've not got the language to explain that or understand what you're feeling or what you're experiencing, then we have to find a way that those people can connect and understand all of that information.
Yeah, and we're not giving it at the very beginning, are we?
Well, nobody understands it.
That's it. We're not giving it at the beginning.
I think it's taken me 20 years to get to where I am right now.
Well, that's it. I think I've been studying for 10 years and I'll be studying for the rest of my life. And not just because I'm obviously dead passionate about what I do, but to understand myself. Like, I didn't just land onto doing therapy work just for the crack. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, sometimes you ask young people what they want to be when they grow up. And I don't really remember loving any particular one thing except English. But now I find that whenever I'm doing this kind of work with clients or young people, adults, whoever they are, it's like doing comprehension work. You're reading the story, and then you're finding the clue pieces.
Exactly.
And then you're bringing it all out in this really beautiful session, whether it's in a fun way, a playful way, an artistic way, a talking way. Like, there's so many different routes that you can take this down. And for me, it's like English comprehension. Not to dull it down for anybody who's thinking of learning therapy. There's so
it's a bit like detective work, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of it.
Finding the missing pieces or the loops of where things have just got disconnected or moved away from central spaces, and it's about putting those pieces back together, finding the pieces that went missing or got lost, and connecting them all back together into a beautiful story and one of transformation.
Yeah, and there's so many different ways that you can do it, and that's what makes it so exciting. So, you know, not every day at our work is the same.
And we're very privileged to
very
be able
privileged to have
be able
that.
to do that and to help the amount of people that we do in the way that we do it.
That's it, because everyone's unique. Like, every therapist has their own different style and their own way of connecting with people. And like, even though we have similar skill sets, our sessions might look completely different to maybe someone who's looking. And obviously you're coming from a very clinical perspective, whereas I'm a wee bit left field in comparison to the clinics. Like, you know, if I went on and started talking to a GP or started talking to a mental health practitioner in the way that I would maybe sometimes talk to my clients, I'd be thinking, I just went and did a full degree and this doll is on here now talking about all these different things. I'd be like, it's expert by experience stuff, because I didn't land on this job as if to say, that's exactly what I want to be. I had to go through lots of different experiences to get me to the point to realise that no, the journey is about discovering yourself, but it's about who you're going to bring along for that ride, because it's not easy. But whenever we're connected and we're together and we're exploring it all together, it gets really fascinating, and it gets really, really exciting then to see people transform in whatever way that they want.
They turn from little moths into these beautiful big butterflies.
That's so true.
And then they can move forward instead of staying stuck.
Yeah. And I think that's the main thing, you know, and sometimes stagnancy isn't the biggest issue that people have in their lives, but it's usually the first sign where they start to think, something's not right. Like, nothing's changing. Yeah. Sometimes I find that, especially with the adults that I work with, it's different. They're manifesting the same versions of their stories from when they were children and teenagers. You know, they're
repeat
manifesting
patterns.
That's it. They're manifesting relationships that look identical to maybe their mother and father or mommy and stepdaddy or whatever the story might be. Or they're manifesting the same jobs that their parents were doing, and there's no real fulfillment or satisfaction. Obviously, when I'm working with young people, it is more trauma based, and it's trying to help them to feel a sense of belonging to themselves and a belonging to a purpose that they get to discover on their own terms. Whereas for adults, it's more like unlearning all the things that they have been living with throughout their whole lives that their parents have maybe
changing
taught
the
them,
patterns of behaviour and
100%.
habits and coping mechanisms that they've used to protect themselves, because they've believed that that's been helping them.
Yeah. Exactly.
Whether that's real, imagined or perceived, it doesn't really matter, because your brain can't tell the difference.
It can't tell the difference. It doesn't know the difference.
Doesn't know the difference.
No, you could be playing a video game and it thinks that the video game is your real reality, and you're like, oh my God, you need to be so sensitive to that knowledge.
I know. And the very first time I heard that, I was like, you what?
Literally.
I was like, no, it must be able to tell the difference. And I was obviously very naive.
Yeah.
But it can't tell the difference between what's real, what's imagined. And as you say, that's why video games can be so sometimes very detrimental, because sometimes kids feel like they are in that particular danger zone, or
that's why I can't watch action films, because I'm in it. I'm like, oh no, I don't like this, I don't like the sound, I don't like the vibration. And those are all things that I would like experience when I'm watching TV. So I have to be really selective with what I'm watching. But I think that that's really important anyway, because if your brain especially doesn't know what's real, whatever it is that you're absorbing, whether you're doom scrolling or whether you're playing a video game or whether you're just listening to stuff on the radio, all these things are really, really important to censor for your own sense of peace.
Yeah. I mean, you can just listen to the news, can't you? And you can feel really...
Oh, I don't own a TV for that reason.
But
I have
that,
to be really selective.
But I think now people, are sort of slowly coming round to the idea of actually, I don't really want to do that or watch that or hear that because that then I'm taking in that, and then that doesn't make me feel good.
That's it. They're realising what they're absorbing now, which is great. I mean, that's obviously going to change a lot of things, but I think that it's also going to reveal maybe the underbelly of the beast a little bit, and people will start to realise that, oh my God, I really am more easily manipulated when I'm scared, when I'm in fear. I am, you're not the driver in your own car.
You're not in control.
Anymore. No, and you don't get to co-create with life. Instead, it's being dictated and it's being programmed in a certain way, when really you're the game player, you're the game master. You can control all your own systems. You can move all your little parts and see that it's going to work and it's going to come back together, and you're going to be able to face whatever the world is putting at you and actually reflect that back. So instead of reflecting back all the love that you deserve really, but you're not too sure how to receive it because the start wasn't so great, you're then able to work through that and then reflect all the things that are unwanted in your life, and it doesn't hit you as hard. You create a bit of an armour then, a bit of a resilience that's not cutting you off from life. That's not cutting you off from the power that you are, the skills that you have, or just your quirks. I mean, life's so serious. We need quirky people. Do you know what I mean? We need funky, original people that think differently, that create differently. Yeah. And the more that we listen to those things that are heavier, the more that cuts us off then. It starts creating blocks where we can't express ourselves, where we feel like we will be judged even more, or that will be shamed, or that will be told to shut up, sit down, be quiet. All those things.
Embarrassed, humiliated, mortified for whatever reason.
And they're all the things that stop you in your tracks. Like, you might be sitting on a really good idea, one that might impact 1 million people in the best ways, or maybe just one person in the best way. Yeah. And that's enough reason to do it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
And I think 100%. That's a lifetime journey for everybody. Yeah. Like, I know that's still a massive part of mine, and I don't want anyone who's listening to this to, look at us and think, oh, Jesus, it's grand for them. They've got it all together. They've got the tools. And I'm like,
we definitely haven't.
No, you don't know the upline we have. All these different people that we can talk to whenever we're trying to work through our stuff. But again, that sets the precedent for how I would love all practitioners to be working, and to know that we're not in competition with each other. We're here to celebrate each other and lift each other up for what we're doing, because as much as the world's done its best with what it's got right now, change needs to happen, and it needs to happen quick, or else we're not going to be able to manage what's really going on. And right now it's so needed.
It's crisis. It's in crisis everywhere. Everybody is feeling heavy, is feeling like dejected, or like what's their purpose, what's going on. And I think a lot of people out there will resonate with some of this stuff that we've been talking about. And you can find my information on Karma Therapist, KARMA therapist.co.uk, and you can log into Instagram and find this podcast on YouTube, and we can take it from there.
Sounds great.
Thank you so much for being here, Megan. It's been fabulous having this conversation and chat with you, and I'm so happy that you managed to find time to come all the way from Derry to see me.
Thank you so much for having me over. It's been an absolute delight.
My pleasure.